Welcome. Now, my friends, this is the question number 4 on the topic of meditation and life. So, this question is saying, why does the mind constantly seek something more? So, state of mind that is not has not found that sort of peace, that's the coolness, that finding at that sort of state of um, complete quenching, that is what the Buddha described as the convergence of all kind of pursuit in the life. So that is probably what mind is constantly seeking something, and in general, this kind of pursuit is not a kind of a objective of vast majority of people. They are seeking so-called lasting happiness, but they are not fully aware that what that happiness is. So it is very, very innate nature of all beings to seek happiness, which is apparent, and we don't need to be judgmental around the fact that all beings are looking for happiness. Yeah, one way or another, uh, it is those who know and have seen this sort of path for the freedom will know that the people are trying all means that they can to stay happy, but their pursuit has somewhat been misguided. They are just navigating without understanding where that happiness is. So, this kind of aimless and clueless pursuit, seeking happiness here and there by any means, taking any measures, is somewhat causing more harm and suffering than contributing to the happiness. So, mine is, if I can say, mine is constantly in a search mode. It is wandering aimlessly many lifetimes, many countless existences. Everybody, all beings, they are seeking this kind of a peace, comfort, happiness, and they entertain ideas, concepts, whatever way they are attracted with anything that can give them some sort of solace, some satisfaction, and they are largely uh, sort of following the sort of approach of not investigating the reality, not knowing and seeing for themselves where that sort of a truth around the ending of suffering lies. And that is what the Buddha's quest and the sort of a contribution to this humanity is that the path to this lasting happiness is just in front of us. It is everywhere. It is a state not outside, but it is within each moment. And what the Buddha gave to the world is that state of what is called the nirodha of suffering. Yeah. Uh, in Pali, it's called Sanne Bedahiti Nirodha. That means the having to see personally how this all the source of suffering can be directly stopped from arising. Yeah. So nirodha is that sort of allowing that sort of all the fuels for sustaining the suffering to exhaust by stepping out, by abandoning, by letting go, by uh, allowing that sort of cause and effect to come to stand still, by non-engagement, by non-proliferation. So going back to the question, mind is constantly seeking something, and that pursuit is somewhat what the Buddha's words, these are vast majority of people, they are stuck in ideas, concepts, and speculative views, concepts and imaginations, rather than seeing the truth, seeing the reality, and personally testing them. So, and there is a very good practical example, if I wanted to quote some of the examples that the Buddha gave. This is a very, very typical situation. And the Buddha gave a simile of seafaring merchants. So once upon a time, there were some seafaring merchants, in their, let's say, a large boat. They took a journey to the middle of the sea somewhere, and they took all their supplies and food and everything, and the sort of protections from harsh weather in the sea. And those ancient times, because their world was so precarious, so vulnerable to all these sort of natural disasters and so on, those seafaring merchants used to take a bird of two with them on that boat. So, and they used to go quite deep into the sea, and they used to do some sort of a, what is called, they probably used to dig, look around the sea and find some, let's say, treasures, or maybe they could find some, whatever they could find on the sea. And for them to be able to navigate the dry land, the line of safety, where they could find the safe return to the dry land. They, because they could not navigate them, those paths, they used to rely on the sort of uh, bird eye view from those birds they took it on board. So it is, and that bird could be used for a very interesting purpose here. Those birds were left in the middle of the sea, and that bird used to fly very, very high on the sky. And as far as that birds could not see any land within the vicinity, they could fly, say within an hour or two. Then those birds used to return. They could search all over the up and down, north and south, whatever directions. They could try to see if there is any dry land. If not, those birds used to come back to the same boat. Yeah. So it's a similar situation that whirling people who are deeply, ingrained and in the sort of pleasures of the six senses, they are seeking the way out, whether they can find happiness through nice food, through the very delectable food and the sort of drinks and music and so on, and whether they can find some sort of lasting happiness. But it turns out that these kind of happinesses do provide some gratification, some happiness, but because of the sort of a depth, because of the sort of a very distant nature of their path, because they are so far away from the shore, so far away from the sort of safety, they are navigating aimlessly. They are navigating as much as they can, like that sort of birds that are flying in the middle of sea, and they have no way out. Yeah, so all they are doing is flying and using that sort of a supply from that sort of seafaring merchants' boat. But at the end of the day, they are returning completely exhausted and going through the death, suffering, rebirth, and so on. So that is why the Buddha's kind of quest is finding out where that sort of dry land is. Where is that sort of a complete safety from these sort of debacles and disasters? And that is the situation in this sensual world. That's what the Buddha's message here is. This searching, constant searching, this seeking of the mind, which is in sort of state of desperation, is not kind of unusual, and mind can only find the sort of satisfaction here and there, but the lasting, the complete ending of their pursuit is only possible through the practice and the finding the root of all these phenomena, and the origin of suffering that can be put to complete end by the practice. So that is what this question, if I wanted to delve too deeply, I don't think I can have another sort of a full hour or two dedicated to this question, since there are so many questions that are coming. Hopefully, I can then stitch them together into a long series which will systematically provide these answers in various topics that I will discover, which I will cover later. So, yeah, it is true, mind is constantly seeking, but that seeking is, there are, if I, if I was to go, if I was going to say, there's a seeking that is called ignoble seeking, which is sensual seeking is the ignoble, low, temporary, and fragile and insecure seeking. And there is a noble, supramundane, and beyond this kind of world seeking. And that is what Buddha's path is all about. Is if you were to ask me which sutta is this is called Majjhima Nikaya 26 Arya Pariyasana Sutta. Yeah. Okay, hopefully this serves the topic well. Thank you very much.